Hello, everybody out there in Panther Country. This is Tim Whitaker, Superintendent, St. Croix Central School District, coming to you with Panther Vodcast 5. And my guests this morning are from Miron Construction. As I think most people are aware, we've been under construction for the past 18 months with our $23.995 million construction project that the voters passed in November of 2000 and I believe it was 14. Time flies when you're having fun. So without further ado, I'd like to jump into it. We got a lot to cover regarding construction. I'd like to introduce both Mark Leopold and Lee Spindler with Miron Construction. Welcome to the Vodcast, gentlemen.
Thank you, Tim. Good morning. How are you?
Doing well. So let's start out with whoever wants to go first, introducing yourself, what your job title is, kind of how long you've been with the company, and your professional background.
Hi, I'm Mark Leopold. I have been with Miron for 15 years. I have been in construction for 38 years. I've been on this project for 18 months. I started my career as a laborer, worked up to a foreman, and switched over to the carpenters. And I was a superintendent in 1996. So I guess that's kind of my background. A lot of schools, food plants, stuff like that I have done in my career.
What does a superintendent do? I'm a superintendent as well. So what does a construction superintendent do?
Mine's a little different than yours. Well, I'm in charge of all the day-to-day activities, working at the site, making sure we got all the subs here, making sure they got all their stuff on site and ready to go and get their work done. So,
okay.
I'm Lee Spindler with Miron Construction. Been working with the St. Croix School District here for 18 months to the referendum project, and I work as a project manager for Miron, basically taking care of the project through the school district, and then working hand in hand with Mark Leopold. A little bit about my background. I graduated from UW Stout back in 2003. And joined at that time, and I've been working in my current role since then. So basically been in my role for about 14 years. Far as the job position goes, the role is to assist not only Mark and the field staff, but also Tim, yourself, and the school district here, and making sure that paper as far as design comes to fruition on the field, whether that be through ordering of materials or lining up subcontractors and other for monitoring schedule and budget.
All right, I always like to ask my guests about their family. Can you talk about your family a little bit before we dive into some of the details of the construction projects?
Sure can. I've got a wife named Karen. We've been married for 37 years. I've got 2 children.
Lee?
And my wife, Stacy, have 3 kids. Our daughter, Reese, is 7. And then Reed is our 3-year-old son. So basically in 3rd grade and to be going to school next year. So.
Where do you guys call home?
Go ahead.
Well, my home is Merrill, Wisconsin.
And central Wisconsin, specifically Stratford, Wisconsin, is my home as well.
So what projects have you guys been involved in the recent past?
Mark, you want to start?
Sure. My past, I've done a few schools prior to this one. I've done quite a bit of work at food plants. I've done work in nursing homes. I've done buildings and remodel stuff in industrial, as well as commercial. I got a whole host of things in my background. I haven't just been doing one thing for my entire career. A lot of industrial, like I said, wastewater treatment plant, water plants, schools, food plants, and so on and so on. So,
wow, that's quite a variety.
yeah, it is.
So what are some commonalities that would you'd say with all the projects?
They all start underground. Are, you know, kind of the same way. The industrial side of things, that has a range from A to Z. You never know what you got going in there. But you know, everything has got to be coordinated, and everybody's got to be on the same page, and it all kind of runs the same way. So,
are there any things that make school projects unique?
in my eyes, yes. Working with staff, because you just at the end of the project, you can see the excitement in them, and they just seem to be more.
Are you guys getting any delay when I speak? Some pauses or buffering problems?
A little bit, not too terrible though.
Okay, because yeah, I'm getting some from you guys, and I'm not sure if that's going to come across on the recording or not. So, if I miss a few things that you say, it's not that I'm tuned out. It's just I can't hear you because it kind of has some glitches and freezes up. But hopefully, they'll clear up, and I hope it doesn't show up on the recording. But if it does, getting the gist of it at least. So, what about with you, Lee? What notable projects have you been involved in the past?
So, as far as myself, over the past 14 years, most of my work has been in the K-12 market, along with on the clinical side of the healthcare. As Mark had indicated, and working with Miron, when I say a lot of diversity, similar to Mark, I've gotten the opportunity outside of the K-12 market and the clinical side of healthcare, not only in food plants, but also on the wastewater side of things, and in some of our industrial. And you'd asked the question before to Mark, Tim, in regards to what is some of the similarities. I think working in the various industries is it's always a different set of eyes, and because of that, maybe while working on a school, your eye isn't drawn to, but working in for another customer or another sector, your eye is drawn to something differently. So just that variety, I think, helps both as those bring you more opportunities, being the customer of our past experience and things that we've seen to better your projects. So aside from the St. Clair Central projects, I would say would be the Prescott High School. Worked on that over the last roughly 18 months as well, and just got in their school for this last school year as well.
Yeah, I was able to tour that about 2, maybe 3 weeks ago now. Yeah, very impressed. It's beautiful, and then I was back there like the week after that for a volleyball match too. But yeah, beautiful facility, and everything turned out great. And I was also able to get, I know the auditorium isn't quite done, but I was able to tour that as well. And it's very, very similar to the layout of ours. And if ours looks anything like that, I'm going to be very pleased with how it turns out.
Appreciate the confidence in that. Actually, it worked out very well for both districts. Again, different architectural firms, basically get to see different details and able to work back and forth.
So you froze up there for a minute. So that's why the delay. So you guys don't always work together, site superintendent, project manager. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Have you worked together on projects in the recent past?
In the past, Mark and I have both gotten the opportunity to work on a couple different K-12 projects. We worked on the Stratford 2009 referendum, which was a middle school addition and renovation inside of their high school and elementary school as well. Very similar to the project that we're working on here in Troy, just at a little bit smaller scale. Elementary school, which was a new elementary school which was constructed onto their high school and middle school. And we've also had some other smaller projects, healthcare project.
Marshfield Clinics.
Yes, for Marshfield Clinic. So those are probably the most notable that we've gotten to work together on.
So obviously we'll get into more details about all the moving parts and variables that go into it. And you had mentioned, you work with different architects on different projects. This was the first time, I believe, that you'd work with Wold Architects and Engineers. Is that correct?
Correct. This is the first time that we'd gotten the opportunity to work with Wold. So it was.
And was it Bray on the Prescott High School?
Correct. Bray is the architectural firm that we worked with in Prescott.
Yep. Okay, so this project, as you mentioned before, started in, I believe it was March of 2015. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes. We started with the middle school addition at that time. Basically a 4-classroom second-story addition with shell space or storage space down below the 4 classrooms. And so it was, we mobilized back in March of last year, and we were able to basically construct that addition by August and be ready for last school year.
Yeah, that turned out very nice. I remember, I think the only issue was a back order on the VCT tile in the hallway. So otherwise it was completely ready and done and functional for the first day of school, actually open house. And then they just went with the concrete until I think we decided Thanksgiving would be the perfect time to put that in. So yeah, that's it seems like a long time ago, and actually it was over a year ago that was done, but it's definitely feeling like home for everyone in that 8th grade wing. After that addition, some other things started kind of at the same time. I know the bus barn was put up then, but there were a couple projects, the bus barn and the district office, that Derrick Construction out of New Richmond ran as the generals on that. But then as far as Miron's concerned, the next phase after the middle school additions was I believe some site work. Is that correct?
Correct. So basically middle of the last site package for the expansion of the parking lot at the middle school rolled out, along with the elementary reconfiguration of the and some site work over at the high school, including the track renovation. So those were packaged together in the essence of timing to make sure that we've got those items taken care of in preparation for the additions that were to come at both the elementary and the high school.
Yeah, you mentioned two of those things that have received a ton of positive feedback from the community on. The first being the removal of the 2 houses that sat up front of the middle school near Davis Street, and to turn that into a parking lot. They added the digital sign out front, but it certainly changed the whole, I guess, for lack of a better term, curb appeal of that area, but also the functionality. I mean, parking was always an issue at the middle school, and doubling, or even maybe more than doubling, the parking lot area there has certainly helped. Not just the middle school, but also the events that take place at the baseball and softball field across Davis Street and the middle school football field. Then you throw in a little extra parking by the bus garage there as well. It used to be gravel and sand. we certainly have increased the capacity there and functionality. I know folks appreciate. And then at the elementary, one of the top concerns when we passed the referendum was safety and security, and that parent and bus drop-off loop obviously was not very functional, not very safe. So expanding the parking lot was the first part of that, increasing the parking lot there, and then last year we had to do all the bus pickup and drop off on Division Street. But the jumping ahead to this past summer, adding that bus loop and separating it, tons of very positive feedback, so much less congested, so much more safe. And I know they've even put into kind of a policy or practice where I believe it's 3rd and 4th grade students are dropped off right on Division Street, walk right up the sidewalk, never have to cross any traffic. K, 4K, K1, 2 dropped off in the regular loop. I believe it's K1, 2 are dropped off from the regular loop. Then a 4Kers coming in the bus loop and back. So lots of separation, outstanding safety and functionality. So that's been one of the many wonderful parts of this project. So kudos to Wold for designing that, and kudos to you guys for making sure that came to fruition. And like I said, it looks great and functions great. So what was the next portion? Let's kind of walk through the steps after that site work was done last summer.
Once the site work was procured, then we received that package basically entailed a 3-classroom addition with a resource room off of the north of the building, and then off of the gymnasium that was constructed, along with classroom additions there as well. Some interior remodel on the lower level of the elementary, a resource room on the main level of the elementary as well. And so those bids were received in the August time period. We're recognizing that the lead time of precast was such that we needed to procure that material. If I'm not mistaken, Tim, I believe it was about a 20-week lead time from the time of purchase until the delivery of that. And precast basically makes up the eastern portion of the addition for the gymnasium and classrooms as well. So basically, after receipt of bid, we're on the foundation work, take advantage of the fall weather, and got the foundations put in for receipt of the precast, acknowledging that the precast could remain until later February time period. We continue to progress with the 3-classroom addition through the winter months. And then when school we were complete with the 3-classroom addition, the precast arrived and had been set. We were working on the interior finishes of the eastern addition, and we such that everything was completed for this upcoming school year.
So the precast, you mentioned the precast, both the elementary and the high school, from the same company. It's actually even the same color. There are long lead times on that. Can you kind of speak as to the reason behind that?
So the reason behind it, in combination with the supplier, is basically primarily due to engineering. The precast manufacturer has to go through, engineer their panel. On the drafting side of things, the availability right now of drafters and the manpower and staffing for getting that and it was reviewed. Then it was just a matter of timing in regards to getting the beds in the plant for the pouring and the placement of that concrete for the panels. And once they were poured and basically extruded from the panels, it was a matter of roughly about a week, and we were able to receive them on site.
Yeah, it's a good point about each panel is unique. I mean, I don't think there are any two that are the same. If you look at them closely, you know, there's different cutouts for whether it's scupper drains or electrical junction boxes or just even the exterior finishes. and they're huge. I mean, I think they're some of them at the fly loft at the high school are over 50 feet long. Isn't that right?
Correct. Yes. Yeah, and when the community gets the opportunity to walk in the auditorium and look up and see the full fly, there's definitely an appreciation that's gained. Not only looking at it in the exterior, but it's a pretty impressive structure.
Yeah, and I know there's pictures on our websites kind of documenting the process, and I think even a video. But yeah, it's amazing how each one of those comes in. Each one of them is on one truck. They come in, and how they work the crane to erect those was just amazing. Obviously, the 5-month lead time, but once they get them on site, it doesn't take long to erect them and get it looking like a building. And in your experience, do you see more? Is the reason for the lead time too is more demand, more folks are choosing to go precast rather than the traditional block walls?
You're seeing more of precast being used throughout the industry, and I'm sure that does have somewhat of an impact on the lead time of the product. So it really comes down to weighing the difference between the availability of masons and the structure you're creating, whether to go with a precast or to go with a traditional block. For your project in particular, was evaluated along with the cost associated with the product, and the outcome was such that precast made the most.
So they're kind of a wash as far as cost. Is that correct? Because you have maybe less in material with block, but you have more in labor, and then kind of vice versa for the precast. Is that an accurate assessment?
Right. It really comes down to a project by project basis and going through that just because no two structure is the same. Look at the structure here with the auditorium, having the taller walls at the full fly, and then also looking at your gymnasium. As you look at a lot of the gymnasium, brick and block gymnasiums that you see go up anymore, just due to the economy of scale of the precast. And as you had indicated earlier, Tim, the precast walls in comparison to the brick and block walls, and so that's really the driving factor.
Okay. So after the elementary project got started, then I think we moved on to the high school projects. You want to speak to the high school
Sure.
phase?
So the high school project, as you just indicated, followed roughly about a month behind the elementary school in regards to the procurement of bids and contractors. And we started with putting the foundation off of the 2-classroom addition on the, I'll say the east side of the building, and then the 4-classroom addition on the east side of your of the drive to the right. Basically got the foundations in there last fall, and then proceeded with the those two additions. Once the classroom additions, we continued to work through the foundation installation similar to the elementary school. We're looking for the gymnasium, the auditorium, and getting everything prepped for that anticipation of precast panels in that March time period. Once we got the point of the foundation was basically leveled off, graded out, and ready for the panel delivery. Panels arrived, if I'm not mistaken, it was either the last week of March time period, and we were able to erect the gymnasium along with the auditorium to continue the progress. Roughly the classrooms on the east side of the building were well underway, but then we basically started diving into the interior remodel, the STEM lab, and procuring all that work that needed to take place in the summer months, along with the air conditioning and the installation of new VA boxes throughout your existing school to air condition the existing space. And so that really took us through the summer months. Getting the students and teachers coming back to school and having things ready. And now that we're back in school, we are working on the interiors, the auditorium, along with the gymnasium. So this week, the wood floor in the gymnasium will begin the installation process. And on the auditorium side of things, we just finishing up the painting of the interior of the auditorium and starting to work on the acoustical ceiling and some of the higher finishes, working our way down and out of that structure. So things are coming together rather nicely for there.
Yeah, this summer was pretty hectic. That's where everything pretty much was, full blown, all over the place. And obviously you had a tight window. You had a hard deadline with school starting September 1st and a lot to do. Anybody that walked through that school this summer saw it. The whole commons was a construction kind of staging area. And it seemed like the whole high school was under construction, and some portion of every section was tore out or ceiling panels removed and things like that. So yeah, there are a lot of things. You mentioned the HVAC. There are a lot of things that folks don't see. A lot of the stuff that's hidden, in the walls or in the ceiling. The middle school as well received a ton of HVAC kind of remodeling as well. So the elementary was already, prior to the referendum, as part of the energy efficiency projects. But yeah, now all three buildings, all three schools are completely air conditioned, obviously heated, but and all upgraded with their controls and functionality and systems overlay. So I feel really good about that. But those are things I think worth mentioning that folks don't get to actually see, that are certainly important in regards to air quality for our staff, students, and anybody visiting our schools. Go ahead.
That's very true. I appreciate you bringing up that point, because there is a lot of that, ensuring that air quality for the students. So it's a very good point to bring up, Tim.
Just overall, you could go down the list, but this project, 23.995, it wasn't, let's say, compare it to Prescott, where it's one building, one site, kind of from scratch and focus on it. It was, I don't need to tell you this, but it's incredibly complex with a lot of moving parts and phases. And, just at the elementary school, the site work and the remodeling and the additions, and then at the middle school, the same thing, the site work, the remodeling, the additions, the bus garage, the high school track, the district office, and then the high school probably was the biggest part, I think, $12-13 million just worth of remodeling and additions there as well. And then you throw in the water retention ponds. I learned a ton about these last 2 years. You can't even see the one out back behind the football field and track to the north there. People see the one obviously south of the middle school. But yeah, I've learned a lot. And again, a lot of these things you don't see because they're not bricks and mortar, but they're an important part of the project, or important to folks like the DNR, let's say, planning for the rain events. But yeah, I've learned a ton about construction the last 2 years working with you guys. And it is certainly no easy task. And I do have empathy for what you have to deal with, because you have so many variables that are outside of your control. You're working with so many different subcontractors that are dealing with, supply issues or delays and you name it. But maybe that's something we should talk about next. Go into maybe what's been the most. We'll end with the enjoyable part, but what's been the most frustrating part of these projects for you guys?
Because as we spoke of the high school in the summer months, every school project has that time that you had 3 months is what you figured in regards to the school project. You interior remodel innovation. And as you've seen throughout your career, just the amount of summer school programs that now take place in these facilities, and coordinating, keeping a building operational, get quite a bit of interior remodel done becomes a challenge. And as you had mentioned, as much as you do your best to control everything and make sure that everything is done to perfection, you're still working with the resources or other supplies or materials. And so sometimes I would say in the school setting, it was probably the summer months, and just trying to keep the calmer heads so that everyone prevailed. It's probably the biggest challenge.
What about
Mark,
for you,
anything?
Mark?
No, definitely. The summers do get frustrating. You're trying to combine, but I always 6 months worth of work in 3 weeks. Back when I went to school, when school was over, those buildings were empty until fall again. So I guess I'm going to say kudos to you guys, because summer is what I saw this year. And it's trying to work around all that is, it's something else to deal with. But just it has to be done, because your school day is not, your school start is not going to change. It's all got to be done on time. And so that weighs heavy on everybody. But,
And I know from just from an outsider's perspective, being new to this, I like I said before, you're depending on a lot of different vendors delivering the materials on time. You might have the laborers there ready to put the stuff together, start building, but you don't have the materials because whatever, for some reason, maybe you had a shipping issue, or they sent the wrong order to the wrong place, or you name it. I've kind of seen it and witnessed it and saw the frustration. And at the end of the day, you do everything you can, but you're dealing with a lot of different people that you're relying on to kind of get their job done. And you scratch your head sometimes about, we've mentioned quality control, or, how do you put the, wrong thing on the wrong truck driving halfway across the country. You'd think that you'd want to make sure that's done right. But I don't want to throw anybody under the semi truck here, but I just came to recognize that is certainly a thing you guys rely on. You can't make people show up on time. Sometimes you do everything you can. And I kind of, like I said, empathize with you. You're constantly having to have, critical conversations with folks, and trying to stay positive throughout all that. I know can be incredibly challenging, where you're always calling somebody and it's not usually good news. So let's talk about the good news. So on the flip side of that, what have been some of the most enjoyable parts of this project?
You want to start?
Sure, I'll start. Yeah. Well, for me personally, because of the result at the end, everything is new. Everybody's excited. They got a new gym. They're getting a new auditorium. This is done, and it's kind of been our focus since the day I started at that high school. So that's a neat thing. But I got to tell you, Tim, it's awesome to work with. Every last one of them. They all to help us out to get it complete. That's a huge deal in what I do. So thanks to all of them. So
thank you. Glad to hear that.
For myself, it's the joy of being able to take a set of plans and help create or put together the puzzle, so to say, in building the structure. And there's no greater joy than having everything come together and seeing the response from the community and other individuals walking in and admiring what has been put together and taken place. And we spoke of some of the challenges that come along the way, but the other thing that comes with this is the relationships that are integrated, and when you've got materials and manpower and all the resources that comes together on a schedule, and you do it as a team effort, there's a lot of satisfaction in that. It's I guess from your standpoint, I guess you probably see it on the school side of things, whether it be through various activities at school, there's viewing the education a student gets, and from where they walk in the door at the beginning of the year to what the outcome is at the end of the year when they walk out. That's the satisfaction that we take in putting together the building and seeing the community's response.
That's very interesting to hear you guys. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
It's nice, no matter what, you've always got a few negatives out there. Doesn't matter what you do but when these things are over, and to hear all of the positive things you get back from people once these schools are open, that's always pretty neat. It's rewarding. So
very interesting to hear you guys talk about that, because that's the same experience I have. But what I mean by that is that you do this every day, but it still comes down, and you work at such great detail. I mean detail down to, inches. And you work with inanimate objects, bricks and mortar and plumbing and electrical, and HVAC. But at the end of the day, to hear you guys say that it comes down to the expressions on people's faces when they see the final product, or the process of the relationships that you build through the process. So that's very interesting takeaway, that you have the same, that it comes down again to people and relationships, and it's not really about the bricks and the mortar. It's about people. So very interesting perspective. And like I said, you do this every day and have done it for years, yet it still comes down to that finished project. And, throughout the last 2 years, people, have said, "Hey, how's it going? How's it going?" And just generally, and I say, "Oh, construction's really time consuming and taking up a lot of time. But I always end with, it's going to be totally worth it when it's all done." And I'm seeing that obviously in phases. A lot of these projects are done and very functional, beautiful. And again, I think about the elementary school, for instance, that open house at the elementary school, when folks walked in and saw all the beautiful additions and the color and the finishes and the functionality, just absolutely beautiful. So again, kudos to you guys for seeing that. It just doesn't happen. It takes months and tons of finite attention to detail to get it there, and a ton of moving space or pieces. So kudos to you guys for doing that.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So this, you'd mentioned last summer, folks are aware of the budget issues at the time, and there were a number of different things that affected that. Obviously, at the time of referendum, we do the best estimates we can, but by the time we actually started building, it was quite a bit later. And that process, like I said, was difficult, kind of the back and forth, but the end product, their end result actually was very positive. The things that got changed, for instance, the large group instruction room at the high school is not back there near the back of the building. It's at the new wing. Not a big deal. It changed locations, but it's still the same functional space that we needed. I know we talked about the STEM area. Again, that was reconfigured. There were some reconfigurations, worked back and forth, but we could argue that it actually turned out better because of that process of working together and coming up with a solution. You guys want to speak about kind of that process? And it just basically affected the high school project where we ran into those types of issues.
Correct. So, we at one point in the design process, we recognized that we had to modify or adjust the plans on budget. And just as you were referring to, and I appreciate hearing what you said, Tim, because it reconfirms for me that as we went through that process of reconfiguring locations to maximize efficiencies on the budget side of things, what we ended up doing is actually maximizing the efficiencies of flow and program for the school district. So taking that little bit of extra time in design and working with the district, realizing that the current gymnasium and the are being turned over a little bit beyond the summer months. I think for the longevity of the school really turned into being a very positive outcome. You've got efficiencies in regards to flow, and that we were able to work through the budget to make sure that everything that was in the original referendum came to fruition for the school district and the community.
You want to speak to kind of the kind of brings us to the bigger market picture of construction and where you're at with staffing and or costs when it comes to the trades.
So, on the construction side of things, we're probably about 2 years ago, maybe even just a little bit less than that. You're really seeing an increase in the amount of projects that were being undertaken, predominantly from about 2008 up until that 2-year time period. You'd seen a lot of people remodeling on the school side of things, the commercial side of things, doing nothing at all, kind of holding their pocketbook tight. And I think the reality came about that things had to be done. We couldn't just continue to not grow. And there was a lot of work that was out there, and when there's a lot of work out there, the resources get spread, and manpower is probably one of the biggest resources that has been spread. Talking about the 2008 time period until 2014, because of the economy and because of things being a little bit slower, you didn't see as many individuals joining the trade, and increase in projects that are out there and construction taking place. The resources as far as manpower and qualified individuals become a challenge, and it's something that recognizing it, Miron, along with other contractors, as you've seen, Tim, are promoting their shop and tech ed and STEM lab departments, because we all recognize that there's a for myself, if it wasn't for my freshman drafting class, I don't know if I would have if I would be in this line of work. Some programs going in our schools to promote our future in the trades and as a society as a whole. So manpower definitely this morning, because I hope that St. Croix can continue to help promote that.
Yeah, we certainly do support Fab Lab, STEM, all those areas, and we've got some things in the work that I think we'll be revealing here in the next couple of months. Vision for those types of programs. Also,
I'm actually going to be giving your. Garrett had contacted me about giving a tour to his kid. To be a little speechless. You can tell I'm not much for speech, but we're going to give him a tour. I just got to get everything in order there and do that and talk to the kids. And I am going to. I mean, these kids can make a good living doing this stuff.
Absolutely.
It's something we got to get through to all the schools to promote this, to try to get more of them going on.
talked about the personal connections and stuff, but one neat part too this summer was I ran into two former students that I had when I was a principal at Webster, and they both were working on this project. It was a really nice surprise to run into them, talk to them. One was with a audiovisual company that was pulling all the cable at the high school, and another was with an electrician company out of Eau Claire. Saw him a lot at the middle school this summer, but yeah, I had some good conversations, and one of them had said he started out in something else, kind of became aware of how he could do a quick apprenticeship and get into being a tradesman as an electrician, and it's worked out great for him. He loves it. But yeah, it was really neat to run into those two former students. A really interesting piece too of this whole process I was just reminded of as you spoke was the bidding process, and it became really evident sitting through lots of bid what do we call them, bid receipt meetings,
Bid openings,
yeah. Became really obvious, it's supply and demand, that the more bids you got, the better your chances of getting a lower number, which is obviously better for the entire budget process. It's tough when you got one bid, but you got two or three or four or five. Obviously, and the other part is it's amazing how far apart they can be. On a big bid, a big project. Some of them were, I think $700,000-$800,000. That percentage obviously is a lot of money that the district can, or we can save, so to speak, in the budget. So yeah, it became very obvious the more bids you get, the more competitive it is, and the more things you can do with the limited money that we have. And you guys, yeah, I mean, you're like, sometimes you're like, well, we had 5 people do the walkthrough. They were all saying they were going to bid, and then on bid day, you get 1 or 2, and just kind of head scratching. And I know through our conversations, you talked to a lot of those contractors, they're just so busy. And a lot of it comes down to the time frame. Like, you know what, we're too busy. We can't do it this summer, but in the fall, if it would have been in the fall, we could have. But then you said even into this fall with some of your projects, all they did was push back some projects into the fall. So they're keeping busy, which is good for them, obviously, but not so good sometimes for the owners like ourselves.
But you appreciate them coming forth and letting you know that it's due to availability versus taking on more than maybe what they couldn't, maybe more than what they could handle, so that you're not in the position of not performing your work.
Yeah, because on the flip side, they say, yeah, we can do it, and then you need them there on, Tuesday, and they don't show up, and and that's the other thing I learned. It's a domino effect, puts everybody else behind then, because of one person's lack of follow through or commitment or whatever,
it really shows how much teamwork comes into play on a project.
Exactly. You don't need any weak links, so to speak, because then you're not pulling anything with that chain. All right. So you'd already mentioned, I want to talk a little bit about how our staff was to work with, but you've already kind of mentioned which I was very pleased to hear, how everybody was to work with. Are there any folks you want to mention specifically by name that you'd like to recognize at this time?
Yeah, I do. Greg Green, just an awesome guy to work with. No matter it was always I'm sure I can help her, I can do this. There was never a no out of the guy's mouth. Just an absolute awesome guy to work with. They all were good, Tim. I can't pick on any of them. Pete Nussbaum, your principal over at the elementary, he was another one. He always things they had to do in their school versus us changing the way we were going to do things. He put us before his own staff, basically, so we could get this done. He knew what would be done the upcoming year. So, like I said, they were all great to work with. we didn't have any issues with any of them. Everybody always accommodated us, and I hope we did accommodate them when we could. So just a great group of people to work with.
Yeah, you certainly did.
I think it's important to note that, predominantly we're working with the administration and also your facility staff. And, just from what we've seen out of those individuals, whether it be on the administrative or on the facility side, I'm sure it speaks volumes of your teaching staff well. But typically we don't get the opportunity to work with them. We're trying to stay out of the operations side of things, but still construct and help them. So again, thank you for the construction process.
Again, comes down to people and relationships, and be remiss without mentioning that you were very accommodating as well. Like you said, our staff was accommodating to the things that you had to do, but we worked very well together when we had to schedule things that were a disruption. We made it very low impact on kind of what we were doing with school here and with the students. But yeah, you communicate, you work around it. You always let us know when you're going to have a big crane coming in or whatever and blocking traffic for a little bit, or you scheduled electric power shutdowns on weekends or after school. And it went as smooth as possible thanks to the cooperation, I guess, on both parties, and definitely worth recognizing that. Yeah, you mentioned a couple individuals there. Yeah, Greg Green is amazing. I don't think I'm telling anybody out there anything they don't know already, but yeah, early morning, late at night, weekends, always there. He truly takes ownership for everything that is building and grounds in our entire school district and in 2 villages. He's there day or night if you need it. And so, yeah, it's like I said, not a surprise that you say that. And then Pete too, as well. I know he spent a lot of weekends doing painting himself and just being there all the time, and again, he was proactive and seeing things, say, hey, and he'd ask the right question before it was too late. Say, oh yeah, we can still change that or do that. And he was always complimentary of you guys and your staff on how good you were to work with and get things done. So thank you, and I'm glad to hear on behalf of our school district that our staff was good to work with as well.
I don't know if you watch these videos when you have them on your. I don't mean to leave anybody out by name. I can't mention them all, that's for sure. But so I hope I didn't hurt anybody's feelings.
Nope. So we're nearing the end of our vodcast, and wrap it up with what's next for you guys. So Mark, I understand that you have a limited number of days as the construction superintendent with Miron Construction.
This morning I said before, but yes, when this project is over, I'm planning on retiring, and I got lots of home projects to do. I got enough stuff to last me for a couple of years. But being back home with my family too. I've been gone. It'll be 21 months when I get back, so I really look forward to that. So
yeah, well, congratulations on your retirement. And are you going to be in charge of the construction projects at home, or is that going to be someone else?
Oh well, I want to say it's me, but yeah, how that works. So.
And what about you, Lee? Oh.
For myself, I've got another K-12 school project that's going to be starting up here back in my hometown of Stratford. A little bit smaller scale, so very respectable project size. It's going to entail an addition, roughly 12,000 square foot addition onto their high school, middle school, and then renovation of both the high school, middle school, and the elementary HVAC system throughout the building. So that'll start basically next and through the end of next summer. So.
Nice. That's obviously I'm sure you're pleased with the commute to that project.
No different than community of St. Croix Central. I mean, it's good to see the growth, especially this day and age in school districts. Seeing growth is always a positive thing, and getting to work in one's home community is also a very satisfying adventure.
Yep. So what's next for us, just for the viewers out there, December 1st is kind of the deadline for basically the projects at the high school that involve all the precast, the auditorium, and all the support areas regarding the auditorium, the lobby, then the new auxiliary gymnasium, the weight room, fitness room, coaches' offices, training room, and team locker room. So all those are on schedule to be complete in December. And then also one final phase of the project will be the remodeling of the high school front entrance and office area. And that'll take place again in that summer window, if you can call it that, where students are not, all students aren't there, but yeah, super busy. So that'll be the final piece of this project, and will be complete then next summer. Anything to add, gentlemen?
Again, just want to thank not only yourself, Tim, but the district and the community for supporting us through the construction process. And we look forward to be together in your new auditorium and see the interior of that for the first time, and partake in many activities to come.
I agree. Thank you, guys. Thanks again for taking the time out today to be my guest on the Vodcast and helping our viewers learn a little bit more about construction. So enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.